Greek at the time of the apostles was something equivalent to what English would be in our day. It was the language that allowed you to get by. They all had it somewhat, some better than others. St. Paul had the advantage of having a secretary, in fact more than one, and it's good Greek that comes out of there. Even though one can see what's happening at times, Paul is dictating, the secretary is trying to keep up with him, and Paul is going off, whoa, and the grammatical construction goes with him, off on a tangent, never comes back. With John, he's alone on Mount, or rather on the island of Patmos, with his own means, no secretary there, just alone. But he has enough Greek to get by, and it's quite quaint. It's his own. And it's interesting how he puts this one. He's been in contact with something greater than himself, manages to convey it in very simple words. He says, grace and peace. That's interesting. It should be always the bottom line of what we have to do with each other. Grace and peace. That's not always present on the cybersphere. Many blogs have very little grace and peace, and a lot of something else. So he is sending them not just any grace and peace, but from, now, Ho'on, from the one who is. One sees that on icons to this day. Ho'on. If one looks carefully, the article is there, the on. Just two letters. Omega, in usually small form, omicron. Well, it's omega, but it's actually in the micron form, small letter, which looks like a W to us. And the meaning is simply the being one. So it's peace from the being one. Interesting how he conveys the whole of essence in one little two-lettered word. Om. It's almost like the Om of the Hindus. Anyway, and then he changes somewhat the construction, and he doesn't say, because he can't say it, it doesn't exist really in the same way, Hoen. Now, there's one letter change there. It's new, it's the eta, the long E, and that means simply, with an N after it, was. He was. So it's peace from the being one, and then from he was. Interesting construction change there. And then, how does he get in the future? He changes verb. Well, hominos, the coming one. So that's a present participle of coming. He's coming. So, interesting. The future is conveyed by hominos. And I remember actually at La Trappe, we used to sing that quite a lot. The doxology was often in that kind of form, and it was often actually put into polyphony. The doxology and things, they were very well done, these liturgies on the continent. We need to investigate how best we can adore the one who is. It's not enough to whiz off things. It's said that Catherine of Siena sometimes could see the Lord when she was saying the office. I'm not quite sure what went on there, but anyway, she's very much in contact with him and aware of his presence. And she would, it seems, when it came to the Gloria Patri, she would say, Gloria Patri et tibi et Spiritui Sancto. So that was the actual intimacy they had between themselves. It's rather like actually the intimacy that we have with St. Gertrude the Great, whose feast it is today. The way in which she would, way beyond most mystics, have almost a playfulness with the Lord. It's quite amazing what used to go on there when they were in ecstasy. And it's said, and in fact it's written, because we have it from her own pen, that he would sing to her. And he would not only sing to her, but ask her what she would like him to sing. And of course the repertoire was Gregorian chant. She liked this particular introit very much so, and always liked to sing this Holy Mass. So anyway, off they go. And that was the way they would play. The saints are happy to be there with their beloved. And we just get through our duty, don't we? We need to recuperate this joy of the Lord. He's actually a great friend. Remember hearing this years ago. It was one of those old films. David Niven was acting in something, and there was one line there, there's nothing more blissful than to be married to one's best friend. Well, it's that intimacy what these saints had with the Lord. They were really happy to be with him. There's a danger that in spiritual life we can have this policeman attitude crowding out our joy, scruples, and one loses the joy of the Lord, because of the scruples. I'm sure the Lord will often say to us, look at me, I love you. And lovers don't have time for all this business. It comes of its own accord. Love has its effect. If we love somebody, we are influenced by them. Imitation is the best form of flattery. Well, if we love Jesus, we want to be like him, and things will come into order. So look at him rather than at ourselves. After all, we're not great shakes. All this business of narcissism, that's not what it's about at all. Relax, the Lord will actually lead on to joy. And from joy it comes actually far more effect with other people. An old saying, isn't there? A sad saint is a sorry saint. In French it's better. Un saint triste est un triste saint. And so, what happens? He's given these words for the churches of Asia Minor. Ephesus, of course, he knows. He's been there. And he's going to have something to say to that church. He was with them with the Blessed Virgin. Well, it's interesting what he has to say to this church. They've got good qualities, but there's something the Lord wants to pull them up on. It's this, and it could apply to us. Allah, echo katazu, otitin agapen zutin protin afikes. But I have against you that you have now afikes, that you have abandoned your protin agapin, your first love. Agape, of course, is a word which exists in pre-Christian literature, but has no connotation of the love that we give it in the Christian culture, which is specific to us. It came in a big time with the New Testament and what followed, because they had to find a word which wasn't in any way erotic in connotations. And so this was taken up. It existed. It simply meant in the ancient Greek, it just means to welcome with outward signs of love and affection. But then this love and affection became then a Christian thing in the Christian vocabulary. It's non-erotic love, wishing a person well, essentially. But it applies also to the Lord himself, that we have this non-erotic love for the Lord, and it is a genuine bonding with the beloved, and he wants that. And they have had it, they've met him, they've known him, and they were on fire, but they've fallen from it, and he wants them to come back to it. And the word used here is mnemonefe un pothen peptokas. Now, remember from where you have fallen, and repent. Metadoizon, kitaprota erga poison, and do the first works. So remember from where you have fallen. And I remember hearing this years ago when I was in France. It was our prior who was saying that Paul VI, this was back when I was there in France in the 70s and 80s, it wasn't therefore very long after he'd actually said it. He had before him priests, young priests, the priests of Rome, and he was just trying to plead with them because it was the time when he had to sign a lot of rescripts of laicization. They were given fairly quickly, actually, in those years, the early 70s, and it was felt that that was the best way of handling it rather than having people in a situation of irregularity. It became much more difficult under John Paul II. He tightened it considerably. He wanted them to reflect seriously before getting ordained. But anyway, I remember hearing this, that at one time he was expressing his own sorrow. It was a deep pastoral pain for him to have to sign these rescripts of laicization for priests. And he pleaded with them, remember the joy when you said yes. The joy of your first Mass, the joy that you felt when you sensed the bishop's hands on your head. He couldn't understand how people could go away from that for something else. And what he knew was this, what we all know actually secretly, is that a priest who does go away, if he has known Jesus Christ on that level, personally, with engagement of heart, will never, ever, ever be totally at peace again, because he knows precisely from where he's fallen and what is still in him. Every time he comes to Jesus in prayer, it will be there, nagging. Doesn't mean he won't be saved, but that intimacy will be wounded. One doesn't do one's own thing and then come back on equal terms to one's friend as though nothing had happened. And if, in addition, they have got into a situation where they've left without going through the Holy See, and in a wild, savage situation of irregularity altogether, with some kind of marriage or union which is not blessed, then it's even worse, because they have no peace coming from the sacraments at all. It's a very difficult situation with regard to the suffering the soul is undergoing there. They won't say it, of course. But I remember hearing how it seems that that same Pope, St. Paul VI, who was gentle at heart and a man of God, let's face it, is known to have said under his breath one day when he was in the process of signing these, just one more. He said, "Ha un biglietto per l'inferno." He has a ticket to hell.